Bichara Supply Chain, highlighting and showcasing solutions for the most complex challenges facing the industry in 21st century by our team of subject matter experts and mentors. Broadcasting every week, all year round, we will present the most up-to-date series of podcasts and webinars.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bichara Supply Chain. This is Rodney, your host, and I'm speaking now with Rodney Apple, a career coach, author of the Supply Chain Talent blog. He is also founder and managing partner at SCM Talent Group. Thanks for coming, and please welcome to Bichara Supply Chain, Rodney.
Thank you very much for having me on, Nirhadi.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the power of mentorship in a supply chain career. But before that, can you please brief a bit about yourself, your professional background, and how you end up with the current role at the SCM Talent Group?
Sure, absolutely. So I have been in recruiting for my entire career, so about 26 years, and most of that has been in what I classify as end-to-end supply chain. And I got that experience through working with several large corporations. So back in around 2001, I was asked to come into the Home Depot. I was living in Atlanta, where they're headquartered, Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And the project was to build the very first supply chain department for the Home Depot. And they were a Fortune 13 corporation back then. And they realized through doing some benchmarking and looking at other large retailers, Target and so forth, that they were behind. They were growing so fast that it was opening up facilities right and left, and they didn't really have a centralized inventory and replenishment type model like most of the Walmart, Targets had in place. So I went in and built this team, a VP of supply chain, director of supply chain. They had 11 merchandising categories, so I hired a senior supply chain manager for each of those categories. And that's really where I caught the bug. I realized supply chain was going to be very big. It wasn't as popular as it is back then. Yeah. So I did that, and then stayed on and led all of their logistics, supply chain, and recruitment across the United States, 80 distribution centers, all the corporate transportation functions, and so forth. After that, I went over to the Coca-Cola Company, also headquartered in Atlanta. I started out leading their manufacturing recruitment. They had 22 factories in the United States, beverage production facilities, had everything inside the four walls at the salary level, production, maintenance, quality, engineering, and so forth. I later, soon after, I inherited the rest of the supply chain function. So I had everything from global sourcing, procurement, all the inventory planning, supply demand, S&OP, and so forth. Logistics, of course, transportation, warehousing, sustainability, continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma. So I was exposed to really that broad end-to-end supply chain and I spent about 10 years with those companies, filled about 1,000 different professional up to executive roles. And I credit that experience to our success here with, kind of flipping sides. I have my own executive search firm now, that experience, the knowledge I gain, and especially the relationships that you can develop has really helped propel our growth here at SCM Talent Group.
Awesome. Interesting. So talking about the mentorship, Rodney, I wanted to ask you a very fundamental questions. First is why mentorship matters in the supply chain, and what are the most benefits for having a mentorship program in the organization or company?
Sure. So when it comes to supply chain, it's a very broad, diverse, and complex business function.
Yeah.
And supply chain, it's similar to finance. It's one of the two areas of a business that really touches all aspects, from sales, marketing, obviously the operations, and so forth. So, you have to factor in the complexity and the ambiguity. When I say ambiguity, there's a lot of grayness, and I think it's because every supply chain is unique, and companies call like the same job titles many different things, and so you have the stakeholder engagement where you're working across the enterprise. You're also working externally with obviously suppliers and getting product to your customers. So it's a very broad, diverse, complex function, and I feel like mentorship is important in supply chain. So you can transfer that knowledge a lot quicker throughout the organization. You can also improve the stakeholder engagement, accelerate leadership and learning. There's many benefits that can be gained, and I like to kind of break these down because obviously we think about mentorship. What's in it for the mentee, the person that's getting the coaching and so forth. But there's also benefits that apply to the person that's doing the mentoring. And obviously there's benefits to the employer or the organization as well. So as far as the mentee goes, you can access an untapped network. You can increase your visibility within a company. Yeah. Obviously accelerate leadership development. Mm-hmm. When it comes to goals and planning out, your actions and how you're going to accomplish those goals, it's always great to have someone that can help you with setting goals, but especially keeping you on track and pushing you, making sure you're reaching your goals. Improve your self-confidence, your communication. Soft skills are just important in supply chain as the hard, technical skills and so forth. Can help you really figure out how to map your career and provide some advice, give you some constructive feedback on what you're doing well, what you're doing not well, and so forth, how to maybe navigate through, the company culture. Every company has its unique culture and politics and things like that. Sharing best practices, that's a really good one there. You can gain invaluable insights into, trends and new technologies and so forth. But also, you can hit roadblocks in your career, and they can help you avoid some of those common mistakes. Clearly, when it comes to skill development and things like that, that's a great tactic as well. Yeah. As far as the benefits for the mentor, the person doing the coaching and so forth, it helps to establish yourself as a subject matter expert and obviously a leader, someone that really cares about fostering growth within a company. Can expose the mentor to some fresh ideas, especially if you're mentoring, let's say, folks that are coming out of college, and can get some new insights into what they're learning in school and things like that. As someone that's been a mentor myself, gratitude, you get a lot of satisfaction when you're helping others succeed and achieve their goals. Let's see, those are the big ones. Yeah. And then as far as the employer goes, it's a very cost-effective approach to talent development, learning and development. It also helps with increasing employee engagement when you have a mentorship program. This can in turn improve your employee retention rate when they're better engaged throughout the workforce. Obviously transferring critical business knowledge and skills. You look at people that are, succession planning, folks that are retiring. It's very important to cascade that knowledge down throughout the organization and so forth. You're developing a culture of learning and development as well. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of the big ones.
Awesome. And then what would be the best approach for starting the mentorship program in the organizations? Shall we formalize or any other platforms that we shall look at it?
Sure. I think first and foremost, you want to get really clear on establishing the goals, objectives, and the guidelines for a mentorship program. Yeah. And I think that comes down to looking at, maybe conducting a SWOT analysis. What are we really good at, and where do we have gaps? And then that way, let's say you have issues with employee retention, you've got a lot of turnover. So, you may want to focus a mentorship program around improving employee engagement throughout the organization and so forth. Looking at the overall talent development plan, succession planning, what is the desired outcome, who all will be participating in this, how long should mentorships last. So you want to get a basic understanding of where the critical needs are from a learning development, leadership, transferring knowledge, et cetera. So you can start crystallizing those goals, objectives, and formalizing some of the guidelines. And then from there, I think it's important. And now, obviously, in small, mid-sized companies, you could have more of a looser, informal type program. But when you get into these large corporations, it's very important to establish. You're probably going to need at least a resource or two that can spearhead and manage the program, such as like a mentorship coordinator. I think it's also important to have some kind of a steering committee as well. It could be members of, HR. You could have someone from recruiting. You'd absolutely want to have some folks from the supply chain leadership team as well. It's cross-functional, so they cut across the enterprise there when it comes to the supply chain organization. I think it needs to extend not just at the corporate level, but I think it's extremely important, especially if you have internal operations such as manufacturing and distribution, warehousing, fulfillment. Because one of the things I remember in my corporate days is, people out in the field were a lot more inclined to better partner with you when you stepped into their shoes, right? Because nobody wants someone from corporate that's never been in a factory or warehouse coming in and telling them what to do. So I think having that mentorship program that extends out into the operations, it really helps provide those meaningful connections.
Cool.
From there, it's a matter of there's software out there. If you want to, if you're a large company, you probably need some kind of a tool that can manage these mentorships. But if you're a small, mid-sized company, you can probably do it on Excel or something like that. So there are definitely tools out there as well. But I think it's important to identify who would be good mentors, what kind of skills and experience, value they bring to the program, and then from there, looking at folks that want to be, the mentees, and having a system where you can, pair the mentor and the mentee together.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Another question I would like to ask is, what are do's and don'ts for mentors and mentees? So do you have any suggestion, tips, and tricks for making a good mentorship program? Absolutely.
Well, you certainly want to, make sure you manage the expectations and that you're tracking progress and measuring results.
Yeah.
That's critical for success. Mm-hmm. But as it relates to, some of the do's and don'ts, seek out mentors that have deep experience in the areas that you're most passionate about in terms of learning and improving, whether it be, functional technical skills or leadership skills. You definitely want somebody that has strong leadership qualities. You're going to be meeting periodically with your mentor, so it's very important. This goes back to having a good framework in place. This is what I'm signing up for. And you're going to be, when you meet with your mentor, you start out with kind of a kickoff meeting and what you're going to want to get out of it. But from there, there's going to be some to-dos and action steps. So you want to make sure that you're executing and taking it very serious, because the last thing you want to do is show up for a follow-up meeting and you haven't done your homework. You want to make sure that you're nurturing these relationships. You want to seek out their advice when needed and help to facilitate relationships as well. So those are kind of some of the keys in terms of being prepared when meeting with your mentor. I think some of the things you want to refrain from, you don't want, to ask your direct manager to be your mentor. That person should already be giving you coaching, and especially, managing your work, ensuring you're hitting the right KPIs and objectives and so forth. You don't want to look at a mentor as someone that's going to help find you a job. That's really not the purpose of a mentor. You want to work with a recruiter like me for something like that. Again, you don't want to drop the ball on commitments that you've made. So again, when you sign up for something, you commit to it, make sure you follow through. It's okay to have more than one mentor. I think a lot of people think of it as, okay, I've got one mentor and it has to be some kind of an executive. You can have other types of mentors as well, such as, think about a broad perspective. It could be people outside of the organization. You could be with a supplier. It could be with a customer. It could be with a former colleague. So don't just assume you have to have somebody that's a notch or two higher up within an organization. And you can also have multiple mentors. I feel like through my career, I've always had mentors. It doesn't have to be a formal relationship. It can be informal. So being able to bounce things off of someone is very important.
Yeah. Awesome. I
would strongly suggest and especially now that we're living through this new normal and in this pandemic and a lot of uncertainties, if you do not have a mentor, I think it's critical to have one now during these times, because it's so nice to have, someone there that can help lead you through these uncertainties. There's obviously been a tremendous amount of layoffs, not just here in the United States, but around the globe. So seek someone out that can help you and be there to bounce things off of. If you're an employer, and especially if you don't have a mentorship program, this is an extremely cost-effective way to improve your organization. We've already discussed the benefits, but transferring knowledge, improving your retention rates, improving leadership skills, soft skills. There's so many things you can achieve in terms of benefits that we've kind of touched on. So if you don't have anything in place, now is a wonderful time, especially when things tend to be a little bit slower from an economic standpoint. Now is just a wonderful time to put something in place and start having those conversations.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So thanks again, Rodney. It's really awesome discussion today. I look forward to seeing you at another time.
Hey, thank you very much, Nirhadi. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
At Bichara Supply Chain, we are committed to driving global perspective to embrace technological adaptation in improving process efficiencies. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share Bichara Supply Chain. And stay tuned for the latest updates. To learn more, visit our website www.bicharasupplychain.com. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.